Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, that is RUPINDE'S online classes and courses, and I hope you all are keeping well. And on that healthy note, let's move on to today's video lecture that is focused on the paper Literary Movements Unit 1, that is Realism and the Novel Form. This is chapter 1 from Ian Watt's book The Rise of the Novel. So I have prepared a brief summary for you all. Definitely I am not able to keep each and every point in this summary, but I'm sure that this summary is going to be very helpful in understanding the chapter 1. And let's see what the writer has to say all about in the chapter. So let's move on to the next slide. Realism and the Novel Form, Chapter 1 from the book The Rise of Novel. So how the novel rose as a genre in 18th century British literature, that is the main crux of the chapter, and what were the factors that contributed in its growth, that is going to be highlighted in chapter 1. So the entire book, the book titled The Rise of Novel, Studies in Defoe, Richardson and Fielding, was written in 1957, and keep in mind the book is actually very important. So what the writer has to say about in the beginning of the chapter. So in the beginning, the author tells us how the new style of writing that was called a novel was different from the prose of the previous years, previous centuries, previous ages. And how Daniel Defoe, Samuel Richardson, Henry Fielding, they refused to belong to the same school of writing. Though there was something that was common in their writings, and that was realism. So what is realism? As the title, as the name, as the you can say appellation of the term goes, realism. It means it has something to do with the reality. And yes, your guesses are right. Realism it means either to describe the real life in the fiction or to represent the life in such a way that it looks real. या आप सच्चाई दिखाओ और या आप अपने fictional characters को भी ऐसे दिखाओ कि वो बिल्कुल सच्चे लगें. So in the novel, Ian Watt himself mentions the novel's realism does not reside in the kind of life it presents, but in the way it presents it. And it is believed that novel imitates him or life. So here there would have been a slash, him or life. So it simply means that life is imitated in the novel in actually the realistic terms. The narrative method that was used in the novel can be called its formal realism. So the realistic manner that was used in the novels can be called the formal realism, which Daniel Defoe, Henry Fielding, and Samuel Richardson accepted and adopted. So basically, there was emphasis on the individual experience rather than the universal ones. Now, realism as explained by Ian Watt, what he has to say. Despite the various techniques and forms used by early novelists, this realism is an identifiable trait of them all. So there was something, the way I have just told, there was something common in the writings of these three writers and many others, that was the realism. So there was emphasis, definitely, which was on individual experience. क्राउड को ना देखते हुए एक पूरे टाइप, एक क्लास, एक यॉनर या एक स्ट्रैटा को ना देखते हुए एक इंडिविजुअल इंसान के एक्सपीरियंस पे ध्यान था यहाँ पे. So that was something really new. And basically, and what has mentioned in the chapter, that primary criteria was truth to individual experience. Individual experience, which is always unique and therefore new, and this newness was actually the base of the novel. My experiences are going to be different, your experiences are going to be different, and your friend is living a different life. So we all are different, we all have different set of situations and circumstances, and definitely our lives are going to be different. The stories of our lives are going to be different. And that crux was captured. It was actually described in this genre, the novel. So rightly named, the novel was the literary vehicle for telling these new kind of tales about the human experiences. So the main focus, first of all, was on the plots. Definitely the plots of these new writings, which we called the novels, that was different. So as compared to the previous plots, these plots were different. These were new. These were innovative. So as mentioned, the novel was independent of the past tradition. So definitely, novel was not a slavish imitation of the earlier writings. Novel में पुराना वाला कुछ कॉपी नहीं हो रहा था. Novel में नई चीज आ रही थी. Novel में individualism आ रहा था. It is indeed a pursuit of truth based on individual matter. तो बार बार ये बात आएगी. It is actually based on individual experiences. And what said, the novel is a form of literature which fully reflect this individualistic and innovative orientation. तो जब बात खास से आम पे आती है और हर आम इंसान की लाइफ डिफरेंट है, that was something that novel captured. Plots of the classical epics and Renaissance writings, they were simply based on history, but now history took a back seat and the focus came, and basically the emphasis was based on originality. The novel acted as a vehicle of culture. How popular culture transformed, it shifted, it actually carried forward from one generation to another. The primary aim of the novel was to present the human experience in its realistic colors. So now the characters, the plot, everything was different, everything was individual, everything was unique. And let's move further, that if in the first place we have discussed how plots were different, how plots were innovative, now let's see what is next. Then reality, individualism. Once again, so the main emphasis was on individual and the experiences of that individual. The persons in the plot were either real or they looked very real. Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe was thought to be an autobiography. Imagine, that was the, you can say, potential of his writing, that people took Robinson Crusoe as an autobiography. That actually the protagonist is writing about his own experiences. It was such a realistic account of all the adventures of Robinson Crusoe. And if you have any doubt, you haven't read that book, it is a must read. You all should actually read the book. I have an example even. You must have seen there was an episode in Doraemon where Nobita requests Doraemon to actually give him the experience how Robinson Crusoe lived a life. So that's the funny thing, definitely, but it is going to give you some idea of what kind of novel Robinson Crusoe was. It was actually about a man who survived a shipwreck. So next, the universals were replaced by the particulars. Now individuality and particularity. How? First plot, then reality, and now what? Now we are going to talk of characters and how the characterization was very particular. So definitely the proper heed, particular attention was given to the particular individuals. They did by, how did the writers actually, attempt it? How did they do so? So they did so by naming the characters in an ordinary way. आम इंसानों की तरह उनको नाम दे दिया. Instead of using the type characters, royal class के, aristocratic family, no. They were not the royal kings, queens, dukes, duchess. The authors of the novels adopted proper names, and this function of proper names was first established in the novel only. This helped the readers to form a connection with the character, and people started naming their children after the names of the characters. And this is what we have even generally seen in Bollywood movies. If a character plays well, if a character is successful, definitely we start loving that character, we connect, and then what we do, we start naming the persons in our family after them. और यहाँ पे जो कनेक्शन लोगों को फील हो रहा था, डेफिनेटली आई कैन नॉट कनेक्ट माई सेल्फ विद अ रॉयल किंग और अ क्वीन, बट डेफिनेटली इफ somebody from the ordinary life is being displayed on the screen, I am definitely going to connect myself कि ये तो मेरी बात हो रही है, ये तो मेरे जैसा है या मेरे जैसे ही बातें कर रहे हैं. So that was the connection that was actually people felt with the characters of the novels. Time is another important point that actually helped in the development of this genre. So how time is important? John Locke had been quite famous throughout the 18th century, and he's the man who is famous for his views about the concept of tabula rasa. This is a very important concept for the master's class, and it means this is actually all his views are written in an essay that came out in 1689. The title of the essay was An Essay Concerning Human Understanding. And what he wrote in that essay, he stated that we, the human beings, when we take birth, our mind is like a blank slate, and that blank slate is called tabula rasa, which means that we are empty, our minds are empty, and we fill our minds with ideas. From where do we get the ideas? Ideas come out of our experiences. So we are born as empty, as blank slates, and we keep on filling that slate, we keep on writing it with the ideas that we experience in real life. So time plays a very significant role in the novels, and characters were placed against a particular time and place. How this thing is shown in the novel? So the novel reflected the characteristic of modern thought, one thing, and here is the example. E.M. Forster believed in the portrayal of life by time, and similarly we have an example from Clarissa. This is the novel written by Samuel Richardson. Remember, Samuel Richardson is famous for his epistolary novels, which means the novels in which letters play a very important role. The story, the plot is carried forward with the help of letters. So in this particular novel, Clarissa, the time of a death is given. So character की death का time दिया हुआ. This is the particular time. This is the important factor that has actually differentiated novel from the previous prose writings. कैसे? So it's mentioned, the time of a death is mentioned as 6:40 p.m. on Thursday, 7th September. So this is actually, you can say, the particular trait of a novel, that such kind of minute details or such kind of, you can say, particular time and place is given in the novels, which makes it different from the previous writings. Let's move on to the next factor that is important in the growth of novel. So this is place. Definitely we have, the way I earlier said, time is important. So the novels of John Bunyan are famous for the physical description. There are passages full of physical descriptions, and definitely when you are going to describe something so minutely, that is going to give a unique touch to your writing. You all must have read the poem This is a Photograph of Me, written by Margaret Atwood in your graduation. So what that poem does, what the poet is doing in that poem, she's describing the particularities of a photograph, and that's giving कैसे वो अपना landscape, कैसे वो picture में encaptured landscape describe कर रही है, that is giving the physical description. So space के साथ साथ space correlative है time का. एक individual is defined by two variables, one is place and one is time. Time हम already कर चुके हैं. Now we are dealing with the place. Daniel Defoe is the first novelist who visualized the whole concept of the narrative in terms of an actual physical environment, as shown in Robinson Crusoe. Robinson Crusoe जिस island पे 28 years spend करता है, उस island की ऐसी minute details, descriptions Daniel Defoe ने दी हैं that you actually feel you are moving with that character. So there are many writers who mentioned the places in their literary works by names, and that is actually it was an attempt to give a unique touch to the genre novel. And why I am actually giving this pronunciation as genre, people call it genre as well, because that is nowadays it has got changed. But when I used to study, my teachers used to they confirm it from the French embassies. There were many different words. They used to confirm it from the embassies, and then they used to tell us the correct pronunciation. So that is actually, to be very honest, I have taken, that is quite deeply ingrained in my mind. So it's genre for the new people, but I usually call it genre. So the next is language. How language, now when we are taking definitely different plots, individualistic plots, we are actually taking individualistic characters, we are dealing with particular time, particular place. Now the last touch that is actually required to give it a unique touch is left, and that is the language. The primary aim of the novelist is to give an authentic account of the character's experiences. Therefore, language becomes more important to give it the touch of authenticity. If you find a king speaking in a Topori language, speaking in quite low accent, speaking in quite informal, or speaking if you have read a chapter, one act play Refund in your junior classes. So there is a man who comes and calls his teachers loafers. So what kind of language is this? That's not acceptable. So if a king is speaking in a normal language, that's not acceptable. And if a normal character speaks in a royal style, that would look awkward. So language is very important. It should suit the character. It should suit the needs or the circumstances. So novelists, what they did, the novelists, they adopted simple and clear language. Simple and clear language, because they are dealing with the common people, to make sure that the characters appear real to the readers. Some of the writers continue to use the same style of language, the way it was written in the previous ages or in the previous years, quite in phraseology and highly bombastic language. But some of them, they took the new path, they took the new way, and they actually started writing in simple language. So language has definitely, it is taken as the vehicle of emotions, and the novelists, they tried every way to actually exploit this tool of communication. So what is the conclusion now? I guess now there is no need to tell you anything. Everything must be clear, but still, that's my duty to tell you. So descriptions of time, place, common characters with proper names are the innovative ways in which early English novelists created individualized plots and characters. While early novels were very dissimilar, there was nothing common. The writers, they must have never attended any common school where they must have learnt the art of writing, but they were connected. They are connected. They're connected. कुछ connection हमें मिलता है उनमें. And what is that connection? That connection is realism. That connection is basically realism in common. And early English novelists told the very particulars of human experience. And this is what kind of realism? That they dealt with the particular individuals instead of the universals. So one thing I really want to tell you here, there is no substitute to the reading of the original text. Definitely, the summary is going to be helpful, but read as much as you can. So with that note, I have come to an end. And these are the social media platforms where you people can find me. And thank you for watching. If you're watching the video for the first time, do press the bell icon. And if you like the video, kindly press the like button, share it with your friends, and do let me know in the comment section how do you find this video. And if you want me to cover more of these kind of topics, do let me know. I'm definitely going to help you out, because this is the mission with which I started this channel during the lockdown last year, and I simply just wish to carry out this mission with your support and love. Thank you very much. Take care. Till we meet next, stay safe, stay healthy. Bye-bye.